Hello, Gates Chi-Li community. My name is Christopher Daly, and I am the superintendent here in the Gates Chi-Li Central School District. Thank you all for joining us for our second live virtual forum. At the governor's request, we'll be holding one more of these forums in the coming days to address additional questions and concerns. In addition, we'll be holding a separate forum for our teachers next Friday. This is only the second time we've done this, so please bear with us if we have to troubleshoot anything along the way. I know we had some technical difficulties during our first forum on Monday. As we wait for more viewers to join us, I want to introduce several members of my administration, all of whom served on our reopening task force. Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Mrs. Carol Stem. Assistant Superintendent for Business, Dr. Mitchell Ball. Director of Physical Education, Health and Athletics, and the district's COVID-19 coordinator, Dr. Patrick Irving. Director of People Personnel Services, Mr. Jason DeJong. Director of Facilities, George English, and our Director of Transportation, Mr. Matt Hempel. As I mentioned the other night, this group is just one small subset of our larger reopening task force that has been meeting since mid-June to plan for the reopening of our school buildings this fall. These folks and others have been working tirelessly to ensure a safe and healthy environment for our students and our staff. The format for this afternoon will be as follows. We'll spend a few minutes addressing the items that we received the most questions about thus far. Once we're done addressing each of these areas, if you still have additional questions, please submit them using the live chat function to the right of the video. Please also be mindful of asking questions that have already been asked. We will do our best to answer as many questions as possible within the allotted time. All other questions will be added to our FAQ section of the district website within 3 business days. We also want to share the date and time for our third forum next week. That is Wednesday, August 19th at 5 p.m. We will email a link to the live forum, and it will be posted to the homepage of the district website. Again, we thank you so much for joining us. We hope you find this forum to be informative. Let's get started by talking about instruction. The enrollment form is now closed. In the last 2 days, we have received a large influx of requests from people who missed the deadline. As we mentioned all along, we're asking families to commit to a learning model for our fall semester. That being said, we understand the anxiety many of you are feeling and are trying to accommodate all requests for remote learning that are coming in late. This is a complicated, multi-layered process. We have begun staffing based on these registration requests. This takes multiple days to complete. Once we complete our staffing, we will still have to create schedules and assignments for teachers and students. We understand the frustration that comes with not having all the answers right away. However, it's important that we do the first time to avoid possible confusion or uncertainty when students begin on September 14th. Most common question I've been receiving is, what are the results from the survey from Tuesday? We had 3,431 responses for registration. 2,324 requested hybrid. 1,006 requested remote only, or about 27% of our district learners. We had 61 say that they would be doing homeschool, and another 40 would be attending a private or parochial school. As far as transportation, 1,855 families let us know they need bus transportation, whereas 1,576 said they would be providing transportation themselves. As stated above, we have had numerous parents and guardians contact us after the fact that did not submit on time. We are incorporating them into our plans as we speak. To give some perspective on the timelines of how we are going to accomplish these things, our staffing, or where our teachers and our SRP units are staffed to classrooms for students in the fall, that usually occurs over a month-long period. We are currently trying to do this over 3 days. Scheduling of students occurs over a 4-month period. We are trying to have this accomplished and completed within the next 10 days. Routing for buses takes usually 2 months. We will be accomplishing this in the next 2 weeks. So we understand people would like answers immediately. We're working at an incredible pace to try and get them to you as soon as possible. Another question about instruction that keeps coming in, or we're still getting questions about what hybrid and remote will look like. And it will vary from elementary to secondary and even between grade levels. We will be able to give you a ton more insight on our public forum on Wednesday, August 19th at 5 p.m. once we finish staffing and knowing where we can place people to meet the needs that were acquired through the registration process. Another common question is, can I change my instruction model at some point during the fall? We did ask for a commitment for the entire fall semester. We also understand that circumstances do change. We will handle requests individually. We understand that your work situation, your childcare situation may change, and we'll try to accommodate as much as possible, but I cannot guarantee that we will be able to meet all requests. Moving on to health and safety questions we've been receiving. I want to reiterate our policy on masks. Students will be required to wear masks. So will staff. Masks will be required in the classroom, in the hallways, on the bus, and depending on the activity during physical education. We know it will be tough for our little ones to keep masks on all day. Thus, we are going to incorporate breaks into their schedules where they can take their masks off. Many have asked what the district is going to do about students who refuse to wear a mask. Those students would be considered endangering the health and safety of themselves or others. We're currently updating our code of conduct to address this. Please give us time to work through these details and carefully and thoughtfully plan for every scenario. Please start speaking to your children now about wearing masks if they will be coming to school in the hybrid model. Have them practice wearing their masks. Perhaps you can allow them to decorate their mask or choose a special design if possible. Again, the district will supply a mask to every student and staff member, similar to the one I'm wearing. It is our shared responsibility to wear them in order to slow and hopefully in the end stop this virus. Questions about cleaning procedures continue to come in. We will be cleaning deeply every evening. We will be cleaning throughout the day. We are going to provide as clean and healthy an environment as possible, and we'll continue to put safety at the forefront of all we're doing. One of the most popular questions we've been receiving has been about band and chorus. Will it occur? At the secondary level, we'll be utilizing various spaces and have to do it differently in smaller groups spaced out. For example, at the high school, band will be out in the parking lot as often as possible to allow for the 12-foot spacing between each person when possible, and done in smaller groups. What we do know is it will not look the same, but we're trying to safely give this important experience that our students love as much as possible. At this point, we will now begin the live question and answer portion. If you could give us just a minute to pull up the questions, we will move on to that portion. Question: when a staff or student contracts COVID-19 with a positive test, will we be notified? The best way for us to have info to guard safety to our child would make this info important. We will be following the notification process mandated by the Monroe County Department of Health. They will tell us who we can tell and when, and we will follow that to a T to make sure that we follow the law, privacy laws, and make sure that we get this valuable information out to families as quickly as possible and as allowed as possible. How will pick up and drop off go when getting your child to and from school? We are currently working that out for each individual school based on the amount of people that have chosen to either drive their student or have them participate in transportation. We will be getting that information out to you by the end of August so that you have well over 10 days to understand and ask questions about it. We're currently working through that due to just receiving registration and transportation requests Tuesday. I'd like to know how this is going to work for UPK. Everything I've heard has been regarding K-12. What are you going to help these young minds prepare for? What are you doing to help these young minds prepare for kindergarten? UPK is a unique group. We'll be communicating more specific info to UPK families directly next week. I was curious to know if there will be any clubs or after-school programs available to students, or will these be postponed until a later date? Currently, we are waiting to see if athletics will be approved for September 21st. Some clubs may run, for example, student council, because that's essential. Other clubs we are holding off on until we get further guidance on what we can and cannot do on site at school. Our hope is to offer some form of this, but at this point, no, we are not starting off the school year with clubs. If Pittsford can have 5 days in daycares, why we can't? Pittsford is allotted a different way of doing it and utilizing more space than we have. We went and investigated all models. This is the model that fits into our physical structure, and it gives us the best chance to educate our students. We do not have the ability to do that K-5 or UPK-5 based on the spacing. And please remember that 2 of our buildings are under construction at the elementary level this school year, where we are down a wing of classrooms in each building. So there was not the physical space to be able to do that. Okay, what will K look like in terms of the remote learning? Each student will be placed in a class with a teacher, and that will evolve over the next week as we get through staffing and through scheduling, and we will have more information on that shortly. I read that if a student had a doctor's note, they wouldn't have to wear a mask. Is this true? If so, how will that work? Is that fair to the teachers and students in class? There is a process that the Monroe County Department of Health is putting together that all districts in Monroe County will have to follow, where people may request that their child not have to wear a mask based on their health condition. This is not going to be very easy to get, but people will be able to apply for that. If they go through that process and do not have to, we would then have to provide barriers such as glass partitions or plexiglass partitions or polycarbonate partitions for those students, and there would have to be some other form of barrier between them and the rest of the class. What about a child who is asthmatic, and if they cough or start having a hard time breathing, will they be sent to the nurse's office and be sent home? We are working through different scenarios in regards to that, and we'll be able to communicate better on that with the guidance we're receiving from Monroe County as to what their expectations are. When younger children get a mask break, how will we ensure that they will be still be kept safe? We will use social distancing and barriers to keep our students safe. How is transportation for WMOCO students going to work when the days they are required to go to WMOCO are different than the days they go to the high school? Great question. This year, WMOCO is allowing students that do have driver's licenses and cars to be able to drive to and from WMOCO. Also, we are working on routing our buses right now to accommodate for students to get to WMOCO on days that they would not be in attendance here due to the hybrid learning model. So more information on that will be coming shortly. What time does the school day Zoom sessions begin and end for GCMS? We will have that scheduled for you next week. We are currently working through that, as I said earlier. We're currently doing staffing, and next week we'll be firming up start and end times. Can families switch learning models at any time, including switching from distance learning to in-person learning? As stated earlier, we'll be looking for a commitment for the fall semester, but based on changes in family circumstances, we'll try and accommodate when we can, but it will be done on an individual basis based on spacing and whether or not we have room and capability to meet that request. Let's see. My son often requires the use of a nebulizer in the winter with cold congestion, but no fears, it's just him, not COVID. Will the school give a hard time for kids like this to attend school? We will not give kids a hard time ever. We will accommodate and work with our children and families. Our nurses know these kids. and we'll be able to adjust accordingly. So yes, we will work with the family to make it as safe as possible. Should students only stay home if they have a fever combined with other COVID symptoms? If a student has a cough and no fever or other symptoms, can they still come to school? With the app that you'll be receiving and have access to that each family will have to do each day, it will advise you on yes, you can come, no, you can't, based on the latest requirements from the health department. So I don't want to give you an answer today that may change. So we will have an update with our app that will help make that decision based on what the health department's requiring at the time when we are in attendance at school, which is about a month away. Do you have a breakdown for how many have chosen hybrid versus remote for K-5? I don't have it with me, but I can have that for our next session, and we can put that out with our FAQ. I just had the overall totals for today. How will remote learning work? Will there be a Zoom meeting for when the class is supposed to meet? There will be a combination of that, yes. Remote learning will be via Zoom or via, as we talked about last time, Microsoft 365 has an app within it called Teams that is very similar to Zoom. That would be what the remote learning will look like, and we will have more on that for you next Wednesday. What happens in the event of a fire drill or shelter in place? Will drills still happen? We will have to do drills. For those that are in the hybrid model, every student has to go through the drills, so we have to double them this year while we're doing them. And yes, they will still happen. And we will follow the process that we have to do for New York State safety to make sure that we do them safely and efficiently. To help determine if there is or isn't an increase in COVID cases once school opens up, are all students going to be tested prior to ever going into the school? If not, how will you even know if this is or isn't a problem to determine when school can go back to normal? We do not have the ability to require people to have a COVID test prior to coming to school. If the mandate comes out of the state or health department that they do, then we will adjust to that. And again, I exist in the belief that families want their kids healthy and safe, and if there's a suspicion, they will consult their primary physician and have a test done, or if their primary physician, after meeting them, believes there's a reason to look in that, would, and then through being notified by the health department, we would begin contact tracing if it impacts the school district. Will sixth graders be using lockers? What will the school day look like when they are there? We will have more on scheduling next week. And the use of lockers, we are going to be allowing students to use backpacks so that they do not go to their lockers at the beginning of the year, and will adjust as the year goes on when it gets colder and there's a need to store jackets. But trying to eliminate gathering around lockers, not socially distanced, we will be starting the year without the use of lockers. Please talk about financials. Does the district have the funds to pay for PPE, hand sanitizer, etc.? What are your concerns? We currently have ordered everything and are paying for it out of our general fund. One of my concerns is that we got to make sure it's still coming in regularly. My concerns are that we put orders in. We have plenty to get started with the school year, but it's keeping that supply chain going throughout the year. I'm very hopeful that it'll happen, so that does not impact us being able to have an open and safe school. And we are being reimbursed allegedly by the government for the expenses we have in relations to COVID-19, and we will see how that flows as the year goes on. Will my child be able to meet his teacher before school begins, and how will he get his school-issued laptop? Can you actually scroll down a little, please, so I can see that? Yes, your child will meet your teacher prior to school. We are working out how we do that in this new environment, and we'll have more information on that shortly. We will be issuing laptops the last week of August, first week of September, remembering that we're not starting school until September 14th, and we'll have more information based on school and grade for students to get their laptops. Will there be a mock schedule for online learning or example for parents' review? Yes. As I said earlier, we will be providing that next week. What will the high school schedule look like? It will not be a block schedule. It'll be an 8-period day. And we'll have start times and everything like that for next week for you to be able to view. But yes, it's not a block schedule. Will the children be provided masks for the school day? Yes. Each student will be issued a cloth mask similar to the one I'm wearing. We will also have disposable masks available if they forget their own. What does the rotation of classes at the secondary level look like? Will the students continue to go from one class to another, or will they be in one class with the teacher rotating? At the secondary level, based on the needs, they will have to rotate classes. We're working on alleviating congestion in the hallways and staggered releases. But they will not be similar to elementary where you have the ability to keep them in one classroom one day. Based on the uniqueness of a secondary schedule, there will be movement. They will be required to wear masks and keep social distance while moving. Will you add additional nursing staff to the schools? At this time, we do not need it, but if it becomes evident that we were needed to add nursing staff, we believe we are staffed appropriately, we would consider that. What kinds of factor will the district consider in order to determine whether or not a student can switch learning models? Factors will be, do we have the capacity that if they're trying to go from remote to in-person or hybrid? Do we have room at that grade level safely with the mandates required for class size? Other factors would be if they're going from hybrid to remote, what grade level they're at, where we would be able to switch them to a new teacher or model. So there are a lot of factors that go into that. From what I've read and heard, it sounds like the teacher union has been controlling a lot of the decisions. Will they be represented in the next meeting? The teacher union's been phenomenal to work with. We meet with them regularly and represented at the next meeting. Sure, they can sit in the back. That'd be fine. They're not here to answer questions about the district. That's my job. But to be honest with you, I can't say enough about the leadership of the GCTA. They've been great partners in trying to figure out this big puzzle. And they've been more than willing to work and have really been a great partner throughout this time. Will remotely learning GCMS students have the ability to meet their teachers in some sort of one-on-one forum? Last year, the teachers already knew that. Can you raise it, please, so I can see it? Last year, the teachers already knew the kids when school closed, which helped. Yes, we're working on meet and greets for all levels so that students can meet their teachers ahead of time. We're working through that process. Which parents are required to purchase insurance for use of laptops at home? We are currently looking at this process and we'll be sure to communicate when decisions are finalized. And we should have that shortly for you. Will all age groups UPK-12 have access to computers for the remote learning? Yes. Will there be some sort of orientation at the schools for incoming K and middle school students at grade prior to the start of the school year? Yes. We are working on that and each school will release that prior to school. If the hybrid system was chosen, are the teachers going to teach new material while the students are in school and while virtually they're at home going over what they have learned in class? There will be a combination of both, yes. And it depends on the subject, grade level, etc. Will the kids be able to keep the laptops home? The laptops will have to come back and forth. We do not have enough where they could leave them at home and have another laptop to use in school. So yes, laptops will need to be transported back and forth, and that's why we're allowing backpacks to be used this year in schools. If, and we hope, sports happen and a student is remote learning, will there be transportation to the sporting practice, games, matches? Students will have to get themselves to that if they are on remote learning. We will not be picking up students to bring back to practices. They would have to get to school on their own. If there are sports, musical clubs, etc., will kids that are learning remotely still be able to participate? Yes. Should parents shop off of the normal supply list or should we hold off on getting supplies? Updated supply lists are being sent out so that parents can do that. and they will be on each building's webpage. What happens if a family chooses distance learning and it's just not working? What's the likeliness of the student to be able to switch to in-person? Again, with this one, it would be based on what grade level, school, and capacity of that grade to be able to take in a student. So that there would be many variables to look into. Will sanitizer be installed around the school for children to use? Absolutely. Will the remote learning require kids to log on live? My kids will be in daycare and us working, so we'll not be able to do during the day. The beauty of Schoology will be that we can record those lessons, that if you do have that situation, that students would be able to log in at night and get the lessons and be able to participate. So yes, that will all be allowed. How is staffing? Are most teachers returning? We're currently working through that. That's what we're doing yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Who is developing the specific plans and procedures? Administrators, teachers, staff, parents, or a combination? It's a combination. What is the district doing for the social emotional needs of the students? You should have received a email from us asking for you to participate in a survey for your students to help us prepare for what they need coming back. So please refer to that and fill it out for each child at the secondary level. Have your children fill it out so that we can make sure that we are prepared to help them when they do come back. At the secondary, will each classroom be sanitized between classes? And if so, how will that work when teachers would be in the hall supervising students? We are working on how that's going to occur, and we'll be able to share more on that. For children that require extra support in subjects such as literacy, will parents be notified prior to the start of the school year as to how frequently that will be? Will students receive more breaks? Yes, they will be notified prior to the start of the school year. As far as receiving more breaks, if that's mass breaks, yes, they will get mass breaks. If it is that they are getting extra help, yes, they will receive extra help. What supplies are needed at the high school level? We've had no emails or contact from the high school at all about our incoming ninth grader. Nothing I can find on the website either. We'll be meeting this afternoon on staffing, and I'll bring that up at the high school level so that they can inform you as soon as possible. Currently waiting on more questions. You mentioned students would be able to watch recorded lessons later in the day if they are unable to log in live. So there will not be mandatory attendance. Yes, there is attendance. We are adapting to that in that when understanding family situations are different, that if a student misses the lesson during the day when they're on remote, but is able to get on later that evening and do it, there'll be a connection between Schoology and SchoolTool, which is our student management system, that would show that the student had logged in and thus would be in attendance. So it's just adapting to these very, very unique times. Yes, there is attendance. How are special education classes going to be handled on Wednesdays when they are not in class? Online is difficult for these kids.
There will be time that the students will be able to receive additional and added support to supplement what they're learning on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Right. Will we get a supply list? Yes. We're working on that. Again, we have to staff first, then we have to schedule, and then the teachers would be able to let students know what they need. Again, we are later than usual, but it's much different than usual, as I shared earlier. After the fall, do we get a new survey asking about remote or hybrid learning? Yes, we will be looking to do another survey for the spring based on what's going on. And again, understanding that if you switch models, you will more than likely be switching teachers. Thank you for all of your hard work. I'm curious how pickup at elementary schools will work. We will be sharing that out shortly as we get done with staffing and student placement. That it will be different. We have more parents volunteering to drive their students, which helps us with the busing and the size of kids on the buses, or the number of kids on the buses. So we are going to, each building will be releasing how that's done shortly. Is back to school night canceled? Yes, we will not be having everybody come in, but we will be doing it differently, and we'll have more information about that shortly. Have thought about the water resistors be removed from the faucets? No.
I don't understand why.
Why would we remove water resistors? Yeah, okay. Our family's locked in for any period of time if they commit to distance learning at the beginning of the year. Again, we've asked for families to commit for the fall semester. If things change, we will obviously consider, but can't guarantee switching between the two at this time. How will lunchtime work? Well, it depends on if it's elementary or secondary. Elementary will more than likely be eating in their classrooms. Secondary, it will be a combination of the cafeteria and rooms near there to allow for spacing and safety. Have all sports, including basketball, been canceled? Nothing's been canceled yet. The governor has stated that September 21st would be the earliest we could begin practicing for fall sports. Until we're told differently that everything is on, but we just don't know. Nothing's been canceled yet. Since September, it may be hot in the classroom. How will we cool the classrooms? We will have windows open to try and do that, and our airflow in Mr. English.
So we will turn our univents on 2 hours earlier than we have in the past to get the set points for the room set, and then introduce outside air more than we have in the past. Now, if it's hot outside air, it's hot outside air, and we will do our best to keep that air moving. That's the best we can do in many of our classrooms.
Okay, thank you. Will teachers be assigned to remote learning or hybrid instruction? Will teachers have to split their time between online learners and in-person learners? We are working on staffing to be able to answer that completely, but I think it's a combination of both. Are we locked into the A through K on Monday, Thursday, or is there a chance that will change? There is a chance that will change, and it was A through L and M through Z. But we are trying to figure that out as soon as possible. We are trying to accommodate that families are on the same day, and some families in our district have students with different last names, so we are trying to adjust that to make sure that families are on the same days first and going from there. I'll pick up and drop off work at the schools. We will be releasing that schedule as soon as possible, no later than the end of August. Will students be able to use the playground for recess? Yes, with social distancing. We'll be cleaning them as well. How will art classes be handled with remote learning? We're currently working through that, and we'll have more information on that shortly. For students who are enrolled in remote learning, how will band work? Will it be virtual? That it will be mostly lesson-based, and the band teachers, when we get closer to school, will release how that's going to be. Will start times be changing for any of the schools? We will have that answer for you next week, but it will not be significant in start time change. It may be a little here and there. Will kids in middle school be using lockers to put their books and supplies in? At the beginning of the year, no. Students will be using backpacks to go between classes. Lockers will not be used at the secondary level, which is both middle and high school. When it gets colder out and there's a need for jackets, we will be looking at how we do that safely based on where we are at that time with health and wellness. How will remote kiddos do state tests? Excellent question. Don't have an answer for that. It would have to be online, obviously, if we're doing it with remote learners. And the state does not have an answer for if we are going to have those tests at this point. So we would have to work through that whenever they make their decision. How will grading change in the fall? Students will be earning number grades again in the upper grades, Regents exams happening again. We will be releasing the expectations and grading procedures prior to school. Our regional exam's happening. Your guess is as good as mine. They are planning on it at this point, but we don't know where we'll be at that time or juncture. So we will see if they have them. I don't have an answer for that. How would the cafeteria would look like for breakfast and lunchtime with all students? So obviously we can't put all the students in there, and remember that only half the students will be coming in each day. Each building is putting in procedures where the students, depending on grade level, would be socially distanced in space so that they're able to eat. So it's going to look very different than it did in the fall.
So that's a follow-up question for me.
Yes, so this is a follow-up for the resistors. Don't we want the kids to wash their hands with copious amounts of water?
We want the kids to wash their hands with copious amount of soap and water, but with the existing aerators, we have more than adequate water.
Thank you, Mr. English. My daughter is supposed to be in advanced programs. Is she still able to participate remotely? We are working on the schedule after we get done with our staffing this week, and we'll be better able to answer that. Please contact your counselor for that answer. Will my elementary child be taking supplies home each night, or will there be space available to be left in school? Yes, there will be space available for them to be left in school, but they'll also need to be able to have some supplies for doing work at home. What will elementary band lessons look like? We will have more information on that once we get staffing done and get into the schedule, and be able to share more on that. I can't, oh, that's up there. Okay. How many more community forums will be offered? Would you consider offering more throughout the year? We have one scheduled for next week, and then we'll be looking for the week beyond that. Will I be doing more throughout the year? There'll be a combination of this and our weekly videos to keep people informed. So yes, there will be multiple opportunities to engage. Does the middle school have the proper air filtration system that is required?
Yes, it does. We are replacing air filters before the start of school. We'll continue to replace air filters. And then from a ventilation standpoint, as I mentioned, we'll be starting our heating and cooling systems 2 hours earlier to increase ventilation, and opening windows when it's safe to do so for the students and staff.
To what standard of accountability will teachers and students be held for the quality of remote education, even in a hybrid model? Spring semester was wildly inconsistent. We learned a lot from the spring semester, and our teachers and staff have put in a ton of time over the summer in adapting to this new learning style, and are preparing as we speak for the hybrid model. And we will have extensive professional development throughout the year to help our teachers provide an outstanding environment, whether remote or hybrid. So I think you'll be pleased with the improvements you'll see. And we have to remember the rules kept changing on us as it went. Originally, we were not allowed to teach any original content. We weren't allowed to grade. We weren't allowed to do a lot of things. And then depending on what we got from the Albany area, it would change overnight and we'd have to adapt. So there were inconsistencies, we understand. But there were also a lot of success stories and a lot of outstanding efforts put in by our teachers and staff. What happens when a child has a problem wearing a mask all day during school, whether a health or physical problem? Should they remain remote instead of hybrid? That's an individual issue that we would be addressing with each student that this happens with and family, and work out a best solution that provides a safe environment for our schools and the students. Will there be gym time offered in part-time in school? I don't know what that's asking. A hybrid, yes, there will be some, there may be some in person, there will also be some virtual, and we're working on the schedules for that. Are students who have an IEP a part of those students who have to go to school all days except Wednesdays? They have the ability to. The family's choice is they could choose hybrid, or they could choose to fully remote or be here 4 days? Yes. Have you and your staff simulated a classroom setup to see how your hybrid plan will work? For all departments we're staffing, then we will be doing that. Yes, we have done simulations, but until we actually get everything organized, we have not done a complete one. Will teachers be allowed fans in the classroom? Other schools are only allowing fans to be placed on the floor as opposed to up on counters at face level. We are working through that based on the guidance from Monroe County Health Department. How is the district planning to support the social and emotional needs of students who are struggling after months of isolation? Again, please take the survey that we've sent to all families, which is also available on our website, to let us know the social and emotional needs of your students so that we can plan for that. For the community forum next week, can you announce the date and time via email, social media, and message home a few days prior? It did go out in email and on Facebook this morning, and we will send reminders as well as a reminder phone call. It is September 19th at 5 p.m. Are there classes that are being dropped from the curriculum due to complexity of teaching them online? We are working through that currently. We're trying to maintain as many as we can, but there will be some, and that will be communicated out as that occurs. Will remote students be able to zoom into each individual scheduled class in real time so students can follow their schedule and attend each class throughout the day? That is what we're working through right now. I can't say yes or no to that. It depends on the class, subject, and grade level, but we'll have more information on that shortly. What if testing for both students and staff? What will you be doing for COVID tests? For COVID tests, we do not have the ability to test. So if a student is sent home with symptoms or is showing those symptoms, we ask the families to go to their primary care physician who determines whether or not to have a test. We are not requiring students to have a test prior to attending in the fall. That is what we have not been advised to do that. Now, if between now and September 14th, the mandate comes out from the state, we'll have to adjust to that. But at this point, we are not doing that. Will language be offered to middle school students? Yes. What specifically was learned during spring closure? What worked for teachers, what didn't? Parents were given a survey to reflect on spring. Would you share survey responses from teachers? So specifically learned during spring closure, we learned that we had a lot of students that had trouble engaging. We learned that we had some that benefited directly from being on remote learning and some that really struggled with it. Regularly connecting with students at a set time worked well. Having time spread out or sporadic did not. And again, depending on grade level, subject, etc., there were some successes or some things that we really need to work on. Again, not having science lab makes the science classes tough. And so adapting to that is one example. Okay. Well, let's see. When will grading criteria expectations be released for remote learners? What if families are not able to meet the expectations for course, but they've already signed up for remote learning? Can you bring that down again? Okay. Grading criteria and expectation. We have to staff first, get a schedule set, and then for each of the classes, depending on grade level, the criteria we establish for the families. What families are not able to meet the expectations for a course, but they've already signed up for remote learning. We'll have to work through that on an individual basis. Okay, where to go? For elementary, will students have the same teacher on classroom and remote days, or will this require more teachers? At this point, it's not requiring more teachers, and we're working through how we're staffing it, as I've shared earlier. I wish I could say exactly what it is, but we're still working right through that. I understand this is mostly about the students, but how are the teachers feeling about returning? Are they nervous? What are their main concerns thus far? You know, it runs the gamut, similar to families. Some are very nervous, some are excited to be back, some are somewhere in between. And again, the concerns that teachers are having are the same as our families. How are we going to safely do this? How many kids are going to be in my classroom? What's my schedule look like? These are all the things we're currently working through. And to the teachers' credit, they're ready to go. But again, just like anyone else that we talk to, they have the same questions and similar worries that we all do. And what's it going to look like? How's it going to be different? And this is something that we're working through on a daily basis. Will the district provide guidelines for the amount of remote work time and amount of assignments that should be expected from children at each grade level? Yes, we're working on that. If you know the number of students who will not be attending in person, will that allow the opportunity for other students who will be able to go more than 2 days a week in person? At this time, no. But over time, hopefully, if things do get better, we would work towards our ultimate goal is to have all our students back if we're able to get a handle on this virus. So at this point, we're not planning on that, but it doesn't mean that it can't evolve to that eventually. We're starting small and building on what we learned as we move through this unique year. Again, my ultimate goal is to have all our students back safely. I still believe the greatest opportunity is that connection between a teacher and student in person. We have to do this for now because of what is needed to keep people safe by using the hybrid model in order to be able to utilize our buildings the way that we can. But my ultimate goal, there's nothing more important in an education than that connection between a student and a teacher in a learning environment. And we're working on how we can make our remote learning environment very inviting and make those connections as well. This is something new for us, and we're working through it as fast and efficiently as we can. Do the laptops, oh, sorry, the one above it. Are there going to be barriers between or at student desks? In areas where they can't be socially distanced 6 feet apart, yes, we will be providing barriers. Do the laptops provided by the district have the ability to attach an Ethernet cable for faster connection, or are they only on Wi-Fi? Some have the direct capability and others do not. It depends on the laptop model. Great question. What staffing work is being done? Will teachers and staff be moving between grades and or buildings? We're right in the beginning of that, and I don't have an answer for that right now. We're actually right after this meeting to do another staffing meeting. Will teachers be willing to partner with private tutors so our remote kiddos can have more support? Our teachers will do anything to support our kids, and if it's helping out or informing a private tutor, we'll work through that. Are there any concerns with the availability of substitute teachers? If a sub is not available, will students be distributed to other classes? Yes, there are concerns about substitute teachers. Please apply to be a sub. We can guarantee you some work. And if a sub is not available, will students be distributed to other classes? No, we would have to distribute other staff to come in to cover on that day. Yes, substitute teachers have been a worry for years. And this year is no different. Trying to get more and more people involved. Elementary level especially, why aren't temp checks being done at entry to building? We are asking parents and staff to do it. We trust our families to do it. And this is per New York State guidance, and we are meeting that guidance. If a student or family does not take it prior, our nurses will get to them when they arrive as quickly as possible to check them for a temperature. Let's see, could there be a scenario where a teacher teaches to their 8 to 10 in class students at the same time as Zooming with remote learners? Kids can ask questions and be part of it. We are working through that. Can that be a scenario? Yes. Is it possible to request one with the Ethernet cable since we have 2 students as well as a parent working from home? Sure. We'll accommodate if available. Why did the district decide to schedule a hybrid account with Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday days? Doesn't it make more sense to schedule Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday days? That way there's a day between cleaning. We're cleaning every day. And it's going to happen continuously. So this was done so that students didn't have as big a gap between being in person with a teacher. And again, as I shared earlier, I firmly believe that the more time they're in front of a teacher, the better, and more often. And so not being able to have them here every day, having them here every couple of days allows that to occur. Many of the kids will arrive at school on over-the-counter medications that get ill in the middle of the day. What is the plan for kids who get ill in the middle of the day? The same as always. They would go to the nurse's office if they're exhibiting symptoms related to COVID. We have a room for them to go to, and we would handle it based on the individual, getting them home as soon as possible. Will students be dismissed bus by bus in small groups to avoid congestion? How will arrival work? Will it be staggered? We're working through those details, and we'll be able to share that with you shortly once routing and scheduling are done. What will happen if parents give false answers on the health form just to send their kid to school? If the student comes into school that is exhibiting those symptoms, all staff are being trained in identifying symptoms. We would have that child brought to the nurse and handled and sent home as soon as possible. I have to believe that our families are going to care about their children, make sure that they are healthy when going to school, and take care of them, and think of the greater good of our district as a whole in doing this. I firmly believe our families will do the right thing and ensure that our students, when being sent to school, are as healthy as possible. Will changes be made to student parent portals to improve coursework assessment and progress and communication with teacher and coursework? We have worked through making Schoology accessible to everyone and the parent portal being open. Since there are so many questions that are in works of getting answers, do you think there could be a delay to the start of in-person learning? There is a delay. We've moved it to September 14th. And it, as all of you have witnessed with our governor, there could be a further one, but at this time there isn't. So we are planning to start instruction on September 14th. What is the plan of if there's a positive case in a school? When we get informed that there's a positive case in the school, a confirmed report, we contact the Monroe County Department of Health immediately and walk through who the student is, and we go through the contact tracing with them, and then determine who needs to be told, what needs to be shared, and then follow their directives, whether it's shutting down a classroom, a wing of the school, district, etc., based on what we are required to do in conjunction with the Department of Health. We are very lucky in our county to have a department that works so well with the schools and is a huge resource in doing all this. You mentioned there are over 3,400 responses to the intent survey. How many families in district did not respond? We have roughly 3,800 students in district. Families were told if they didn't respond, they'd be assigned to hybrid and transportation. So some families have let us know they chose not to respond because they were just going to go hybrid and request transportation anyways. Great questions, information provided today. Will transcript or summary of today Q&A be made available? Yes, within 3 business days. Will after-school programs be available until 6 p.m., previously offered by Chi Rec? We're working with Chi Rec and Gates Rec in order to do this based on our spacing requirements, and there will be more information about that shortly. I don't know about the 6 p.m. time frame. How will safety drills like fire and lockdown drills work? Anybody that is on hybrid, all students have to experience the drills. So basically, we're having to double our drills this year. in order to meet that compliance. So we will be working through them. Our safety committee has been planning on how we're going to make this work in a hybrid model safely. So that is ongoing. Thank you very much for all your work and for holding this opportunity to share information and take questions with families in real time. Gates Charlie is a strong, collaborative community. I agree. I wish I could give all of you every answer. As a superintendent, I'm not used to not having a lot of answers. But I need you to know that the administration team is working night and day to get through this and do it effectively, using the feedback we receive from our reopening committees and adjusting as we go. This is work that goes on behind the scenes that no one knows about with scheduling and staffing. And it's a long process that we are speeding up exponentially. And as we get information, we are releasing it. We're not holding on to anything for a meeting. As soon as we know things that we can confirm, we will be releasing to all of you to help you. We understand being anxious about, hey, I need to know. We're getting there as quickly as we can. And know that we are keeping the safety of our students and staff at the forefront in all the decisions. More questions just came in. Have the school supplies list been sent? Not all have, but they will be shortly. And again, we're trying to do staffing and scheduling so then they know what to ask for. Schools have been opening across the country already. Have you been watching things going on and getting any tips on what to do or not to do? I'm learning a lot about what not to do. Big one, you gotta wear a mask. You have to wear a mask. We've all seen the videos from some southern states where they weren't. And in those schools, they're having a lot of problems. We know wearing a mask, washing your hands, and being socially distanced works. It's worked here in New York, and we're going to make sure it works here in Gates Charlie. And again, I've learned some different ideas on how to do your remote that we're trying to incorporate to what we're doing, trying to find the good and the things not to do in what's going on in other states. Thank you to the staff for the work. I know this is such a once-in-a-lifetime. I hope it's a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. Will there be an after review? So if needed in the future, we'll have the plans and what worked. We debrief daily. No pun intended. But we are working hard and making notes of what's going on so that we know that if something similar to this ever happened again, we wouldn't be reinventing the wheel. We're working on getting that wheel ready now. How does a family request a change in learning models? You need to reach out to your schools ASAP and talk with the building principal because we are starting to schedule along with staffing, and pretty soon it's going to have to be locked because we have to get a schedule together so that we can get it out to our community. We have 3 minutes after this question. Oh, is that my statement? Okay. We know this is all very frustrating. We share your frustration, trust me. Please know that we are doing everything we can to ensure a safe and healthy return to school for all our students and staff. Staffing usually, and another reminder for those of you that signed on late, our staffing usually occurs over a month-long period. We're doing it over these 3 days. Our scheduling of students district-wide occurs over a 4-month period. We're trying to get that done in the next 10 days. Routing for buses and keeping our students safe takes 2 months, and we have to accomplish this in our next 2 weeks. We will continue to communicate with all our families in the coming weeks ahead of the first day of school on Monday, September 14th. Please continue to check our frequently asked questions section of our website. There's a link on the district homepage under Spotlight News. And we'll update that regularly as we learn more. And again, our third community forum will be held Wednesday, August 19th at 5 p.m. here again on YouTube. We will email a link to the live forum and it will be posted to the homepage of the district website. Let's see, we got 1 more minute. Any more questions? Thank you for taking the time to be here. We will do everything in our power to get you as much information as soon as possible. Gates Chi is a tremendous community that we will get through this together. Thank you for your support, and we will see you again next Wednesday, 5 p.m. Go Spartans!